Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Welcome to the first ever YouTube live stream with beginning. So this is Ali Paranda. So I am an instructor here and founder at Pi and AI, basically at Beginners Machine Learning in London. Um, so I started the group about a year ago to be able to teach to you guys some of the things I've learned. And the group has grown actually massively over the past few months, and we're getting to the stage now that we want to develop more workshops for you, more live webinars, and this is actually the first time that we are trialing this. So if something goes wrong, we apologize in advance. And I felt like it would be really good for the first webinar to be live, and it would be on the topic of like how can you break into AI. So I know at the moment it's a really tough times where everyone, some of us have been furloughed, some of us are like looking for jobs and different careers. I've been lucky enough to be able to switch careers from whatever I had previously. Now I work into AI as a senior data scientist, and I wanted to share with you some of the learning points I had from over my career, and like some of the ideas I have in terms of how you can switch careers as well if you want to get into AI, and how you can grow your career if you're already a software engineer working in the tech industry and you want to get into AI, or you're already in AI and how you want to grow your career going forward. And I wanted to put this webinar up for you so that you can also get some of these ideas, some things that have worked for me, and some things that have not worked for me, and so you can fast track the process for yourself. So for this specific webinar, I wanted to talk about how you can break into an AI career. Deep Learning AI for this specific event. In fact, Andrew himself Andrew Eng has produced for Pi and AI community, which I'm excited to share with you in this live stream. If you guys have any questions before we go forward, I wanted you to just post them in the section. I'm monitoring the comments on my just right here, so I would be able to answer any specific questions you have. There's also Soraya Khan in the chat. She will be able to help you with any questions you might have. And I think at the end, we will host a Q&A for like 15 to 30 minutes. So you can ask questions about how to break into AI, what to study, how to get good at data science, deal with the overwhelm of information out there, and like how to go through and like build yourself a personal branding so that you can go forward. Before I go further and introduce myself and tell me about my background, let's check out the video from Andrew himself. Let's get started.
Hello, deep learners. I'm Andrew Ng, founder of deeplearning.ai, and I'm excited to welcome you to our global deep learning community. I know that many of you are here today because you want to break into AI and build your career. I hope that being part of this community will help you to do so. To give you a proper welcome, I'd like to show you around the deeplearning.ai offices and meet some of the teams so that you can see where it all happens.
Oh, hi, Andrew.
Do you want to tell our friends at Pi and AI what you do at deeplearning.ai?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I make articles and other media that help people learn about AI and help them understand the huge impact that AI is having in the world. Today, I'm putting together the next issue of The Batch, our weekly newsletter, and I'm looking for the biggest stories of the week to keep our readers informed.
What's been the most surprising thing you've run into working on The Batch?
How much is going on in this field? There is never a dull moment. You might think from the outside that machine learning engineers really understand everything about AI, but nobody understands everything about AI because this field is just coming to life right before my eyes as I put this thing together every week.
All right, I know you're really busy, so I'll let you get back to it.
Thanks. See you later.
Let's go meet Kian, who helped me create the deep learning specialization. He's working on an exciting new project.
Hey, Kian.
So, do you want to Tell the people at Pine AI what you're working on.
Yes, sure. I'm leading a project called Workera, focusing on helping people get offers in AI and navigating their career by testing their skills, use and certifying them, as well as matching and referring them to good jobs in AI.
That's really cool. And what's the most exciting part of your day?
You know, the AI field is new, organizations and jobs are still misunderstood. So I'm excited to help people understand what different types of jobs exist in the field, what tasks they will work on, and what skills are needed to achieve those tasks.
I think that's really important work. Well, it's nice chatting. And now let's go to Hotel, who is on their product team.
Hey, Andrew.
Do you want to say hi to our friends at Pine AI and let them know what you're working on?
I would love to. Hi, everyone. I lead the product team in deep learning AI education content accessible to people all around the world. People like you.
And what are you most excited about right now?
I am so excited to see our community grow and to see how eager people are more about AI.
Thanks, Hotel.
Thanks, Andrew.
So, as you can see, our team is working hard to support you and help you learn. It's never been easier than before to break into AI. So if you want to build a career, you can leverage online resources available, including open source code, datasets, papers, and online courses like a deep learning specialization on Coursera. As part of this journey, I hope you get your hands dirty too. Don't be afraid of diving in to build your own project, or go ahead and try to paper that you're excited about. One thing that I've seen help a lot of people succeed is if you can build a community or find a community of fellow deep learners you can meet with and study with on a regular basis. In fact, I hope that this Pine AI meetup that you're at right now will be a good place for you to meet these people. I hope you enjoyed the event today and that you learn a lot both from the talks and from each other. And once again, welcome to the deeplearning.ai community.
Everyone. I hope you really enjoyed that video. Some of the things Andrew mentioned was actually really, on point. It's a long journey to AI, but it's a really, really, really worthwhile journey. I think the future is in this technology as well as the career that you can build ahead. It's really, really promising. And in terms of like the salary expectations, you can have really high salary expectations going into this to build yourself upon having the skills to build upon yourself upon the career you want to go into. Now, before we go forward, I just wanted to talk a bit about myself, about my journey and where I come from. So my background in computer science, not in AI. My background is in mechanical engineering. So I studied at the University of Sheffield in the UK. So I graduated with a master's in engineering. I didn't study computer science, and I worked in the industry, in the rail industry, for like about 4 to 5 years. And as a systems engineer, so I was developing system architectures, doing requirements engineering, and here and there, I used to do some programming as well, like with Python and doing data science. Halfway through, I realized that I'm really, really interested in this field, in the field of AI. So I talked with the business and had them agree to pay for me to actually go and do a course, do some online courses on AI and machine learning. And that's from there that I started, really, really studying like Python, machine learning, and all those concepts. And it took me like a couple of years to get there, to get good at these technologies. And one of the things I started to do is at work, I asked for being put on projects that would allow me to use these skills. So I developed some operational models for some of our clients when I was working for Atkins. Using Python, I translated a MATLAB program to Python, and from there started working on several projects that would use these data science technologies, such as Pandas, NumPy, and all those data science libraries that you've heard about before. And then one of the other things I did was I started this group, Beginners Machine Learning Group, so that I could share my passion and contribute to the community as well, not just like sit down and consume courses. I started developing some workshops at Microsoft Reactor. So like most of it was basically offline. The like organizing meetups, setting up a group, getting into the community of AI community, going to other meetup events, and just building my network really, and teaching. So sharing my passion, teaching, and my network, and while on the side, doing some of my own AI projects on GitHub, and just learning different technologies on that. It's a process. I'm not gonna lie. If you want to change into this career, it's gonna take you some while. Um, to be able to switch to AI. But basically, what I wanted to mainly say is that if you're starting from scratch and you have no experience whatsoever, you can't do it. It's just going to take maybe a year or two. So you have to be patient with yourself. Um, and you will definitely get there. You can switch careers because there is a lot of demand. The supply and demand is like completely out of order. The demand is so high, and there is not enough people with the right skills to be able to do the job. So if you put the time and energy in to be able to study, and you would be able to get these roles that you deserve, and this with the salary expectations you deserve. Or if you want to start your own thing, like start your own startup, uh, begin solving some of the most important problems with the technology. Um, so that's where I got, and now I work as a senior data scientist for a startup in London called Hack Partners. I got into it via some of the hackathons they were running. So their startup was running hackathon, where you go on trains around the country and you have to like develop solutions and products for the rail industry, and solve some of their problems. And from one of these hackathons, I won the hackathon with my team. And subsequently, I got hired by the company to start developing the project further. And I am here now, like after a couple of months, working as a senior data scientist. I have a team for myself. I have a team of data scientists and machine learning engineers, as well as software engineers, that we're working together to develop an algorithm for the network rail, so that they would be able to reduce the train delays and improve, fit in more trains onto the rail tracks. And on the side, I'm building a dashboard, data analytics solutions and dashboards for network repairing their lifts and escalators, so that they would be able to be more predictive in terms of their maintenance rather than reactive. But I wasn't there before. Like 3 or 4 years ago, I wasn't doing anything AI, and I gradually, put myself through the process to get there. And I wanted to share with you today a process that I came up with that I think would help you put yourself forward, and it sets you apart from the rest of the crowd in terms of like getting a job. So if you want to apply for jobs, it would help you to go through the process and stand the neck, like a leg and neck up compared to the rest of the competition if you want to apply for these jobs. So without further ado, let's get into the content. There are a bunch of ideas here. Some of these ideas that I will cover, probably you may not have heard them before. Maybe you have, maybe you have not. The general ideas that you will find around the internet is, yes, study for a course, then start applying for jobs. Go on job boards, find the jobs you like, and start applying for them. But what I want to do here is I want to be able to give you a bit more, a few more ideas on how you can actually, stand up from the crowd when you want to apply for these jobs, and what kind of jobs you should apply for, as well as how to go about getting a UK visa. So I changed from Atkins to Hack Partners. I was on a tier 2. So I have to go through a process of like switching visas. So if you're a student and you want to get a work in the UK, I will tell you how to do it because I was a student before. And if you want to change careers and you are on a tier 2 visa and you want to change into another tier 2 visa, I tell you what the process is. It's similar, but there is a point-based system that you need to follow if you want to make sure that you get the UK visa going forward. For the rest of you that are living outside of the UK, it's a bit harder. But I will mention what you need to worry about going forward from there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just get into the content. So in terms of the content of this webinar, I've broken it down into 4 things. The first step is, if you're starting from scratch, how do you go about building the skills you need for the role, for the roles you have in AI? Two, how do you go about building a personal brand to set yourself apart as an expert in the field so that when you're applying for jobs, it's much easier to get interviews or even get headhunted by the companies for like leadership roles in the industry for like really good salaries. So you do need the experience, and that experience comes from you putting yourself out there and developing, learning the skills. However, you also need to create and you also need to build stuff. And you also need to volunteer and those kinds of that in the second section. In the third section, I assume that you have some kind of offer and you want to get a visa. Like, and I also assume if you don't have an offer yet and you want to get, find a company that would sponsor you, what are the things you need to do and what are the things you need to worry about when you are wanting to apply for a visa? And lastly, I will leave you with some recommendations on how to build your AI career. So if you get into an AI career, how to build it, and if you want to, where to go from here. So let's go to the first section, building your AI skills. So AI is a bit different compared to other software engineering fields that you may have heard before. So with a normal software engineering, you develop a software that would use a bunch of conditional statements, while loops, and so on to develop the program. So you have a set specific instructions that you write in a computer, and the computer follows those instructions and performs the logic, and that will be your software and that will be your program. With machine learning and with AI, it's different. So with AI, you don't sit down and write all the possible scenarios that would, that a software would have to choose. You have data. This data has some patterns in it, and you have some algorithms. You analyze the data to figure out what kind of attributes, what kind of parts of the data relate to each other, and you then use an algorithm to basically create a function that would attach these attributes to each other using some, and so that the function will figure out that logic of how the software should work. So you can make predictive models, you can make automated models where your software, for example, detects spams in an email automatically, not through the if-else statements like massive tree logic, but through learning from the data, what are the intricate patterns in it that would allow the program to automatically detect spam in an email or not. So with data using algorithms, you can create models. And these models are called AI models, and they will allow you to perform tasks automatically or predict the future based on the past and the past data. So that's why AI is one of the most advanced, one of the most promising fields, because then you can actually write programs that are not actually written specifically by you, but programs that have learned from the data, some of the patterns, and using that to create their own logic trees and creating their own programs. Different algorithms will produce, for different types of data, will produce different results. So that's the whole machine learning field, where you learn where to use which algorithm and what kind of analysis you need to do on the data to decide what kind of models you need and what kind of parameters you need to go. So that's a completely separate field, and I will tell you what the field looks like going ahead. One thing I do want you to understand is that artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning, they're completely different. And they're encompassing, as you see here. So artificial intelligence is a very broad term that basically any computer program that can mimic human behavior. It can go, other than machine learning, it can go and go into other fields such as search optimization, logic, finding patterns and those kind of stuff, reasoning, planning, searching graph trees. So it encompasses machine learning and all the other stuff that is not within machine learning. Because what machine learning is that you use statistical methods and you use mathematics and statistical methods to develop functions or develop models that would do things that humans can do, or automate very small tasks that humans usually do without thinking, but for computers it's very much hard to do. For example, classifying images. When you look at an image of a dog or a cat, you can automatically realize, oh, this is a dog or a cat. But for a computer, it's not that easy. They see images as matrices of numbers. So they don't see the images as you would see them. So it's very much harder for them to do that. And use machine learning and computer vision to computer how to see. And then you go to deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning, and that is using neural networks, especially deep neural networks, to perform even more complex tasks. And this is where power of AI comes in. You can actually build models that would perform better than human beings. So one of the projects I was working on with one of the courses I did with Udacity is I developed a model that will classify 120 categories of flowers, and it could do that like in a split of a second. Even like your botanist at your local, garden shop wouldn't be able to do that. Like just go and look at a flower, it's like, oh, that's the specific flower. But with deep learning, you can achieve these kind of like massive feats. So this is like the differences between these three, and you will always come across these different types of fields when you want to get there. So you just be aware of this when you're going into this field. There are different ways of doing it. And one thing I want to mention is that getting into AI and machine learning is actually a subset of three backgrounds and three skills. The first is you need to get good at maths. You need to get good at statistics. Maths allows you to perform, so like, for example, when you go and want to learn deep learning and AI, you will have to work with matrices, you will have to go with linear algebra for maths, so that you understand how to debug your models. So if there's an issue with your program. Stats, same thing. If you wanted to debug your model, to guess things that are not in the data, but can be extrapolated from the patterns in the data. That's where statistics comes in. And a model is kind of like a statistical artifact where it's trying to predict the future. So that's where statistics comes in. It predicts the future using the past. So it automates a program using the past behavior. Hacking skills is basically Python programming or R programming. So you really need to get good at that. My suggestion would be to, when you're first starting out, don't learn anything else other than just Python. Don't try to overwhelm yourself. Just study Python, learn how to write good functions, become a really good Python programmer, call yourself a Python. And for at least 6 months, just study Python. Don't do anything else, just Python, so that you get really good at it. You know what list comprehensions are, what dictionary are, how to work with generators, how to write object-oriented programming, how to write modules, how to like write tests. So really get good at Python command line and get those hacking skills really good. Then you can go and focus on the rest, because when you get those right, the rest is easy to learn. The machine learning bit is easy to learn. And the last part comes from your background. So this is actually really good news for you. Basically, what it means is that if your background is engineering, or your background is in finance, or your background is in healthcare, or anything else, you have that brown circle that nobody else has, and that's what differentiates you. So if you're a healthcare professional and you have good hacking skills and you've learned AI, no one else in the world, like a few people in the world, can do the same stuff that you can do. And the kind of jobs that you can apply for, not many people can do. That means you don't have a lot of competition when it comes to those jobs. And what that means is that you're a very scarce resource. That company will be willing to pay you loads and loads of money to get your skills and to get your value. So really embrace your background. My background was in rail. So now I'm developing intelligent dashboards, predictive models for network rail, as well as predictive models for network rail, as well as for other people using this processes. Next, I want to I think we have some, just a second. All right. Um, so it should be working now. All right. So I will continue. And if you have any issues again, let me know. Let me just refresh my phone as well so that I could see um, the status. Just give me a second. All right. So the first thing I wanted to mention is the fact that the field of AI is massive. It's huge. You can see here on this, and you can see here on this slide that there's so many things going on. There are so many technologies on left and right. There are from all these various sources. There are APIs you want to learn. There is like machine learning technologies, there is data technologies, data engineering technologies, pipelines, cloud computing, and so on. It can be overwhelming, and this is just a landscape in 2019. There are many technologies out there, and it can be very overwhelming trying to learn all of them. What I suggest to do is start small. You don't need to worry about all of this, and just learn Python and go from there. Now, one of the things I've done for you is I have gone over the LinkedIn accounts, LinkedIn job boards, and I have kind of like scraped the descriptions to figure out when to figure out all the various skills that you may need in the industry. So this specifically includes such as like knowledge of experience of machine learning, deep learning algorithms, data science and consulting skills, product and software engineering skills, web development and API skills, and so on. So on the right-hand side of the on this page of this mind map, you see more of data science, machine learning, deep learning expertise. On the left-hand side, you go towards data engineering and web development. You also need DevOps and cloud computing skills to be able to like run your models on the cloud, data visualization so that you can perform analysis on your data, as well as some soft skills in terms of collaboration. So one of the things that employees will look for is basically how you are performing in terms of like working in a team, and are you really nice to work with? Are you a really nice person to work with? Do you fit culturally to the company? So these are very important. Now, one thing I want to mention here is that this is very overwhelming. So as one person, you don't need to learn all of these skills. This is the skills that the data science team will need. And in a data science team, you might have different roles. You might have the data analyst, data scientist, data engineer, machine learning engineer, deep learning engineer, and so on. And all of these people could have specialized skills so that they will have more understanding of a specific area of this diagram. It would be good if you can develop a well-rounded skill set that you would know all of these things from not in depth, but like over the breadth. But in terms of like getting started, just focus on one area. I would suggest focus on Python, get good at that, then like pick one of these areas and spend some time there, just like learning different bits of it. So if you're going to learn machine learning, just take some machine learning courses and deep learning courses, learn that, but learn them really good, and then like move to the next sections, and then go from there. So it can be overwhelming. There is so much to the field. All you have to do is start small and go gradually from there. And again, I remind you, this chart shows all the skills that all the companies want. So it's a chart of the whole field. And it's a chart of like combined skills of various roles that you would, when you combine them together, you would get it in a data science team. So you don't need to learn all of this, but if you want to set yourself apart from the rest of the crowd, gradually start learning different bits of this chart. If you want to start your own startup and you want to become like a technical director of it, and you want to build the whole thing from scratch yourself, then you will probably stumble across various different types of the skills that you will need to make it happen. Big data engineering, if you have data sets massive, bigger than like millions of rows. If you're putting your AI on the cloud and you want to call it, you need to, web development API if you're going to build a product on top. Product software engineering knowledge if you're going to, work with a team and develop a product based on your models. Consulting skills if you're going to go work for a consulting firm and you have clients and users that you want to talk to and you want to get the requirements out. So you see, like all of these things kind of like fit nicely together in terms of like the skills you need. One of the things I've done is I have put together a bunch of list of courses when I wanted to learn these things and started like doing a mind map. So I web scraped the internet to see like what kind of courses are out there to learn any of those skills. And this is something I came up with. Most of them are free courses. So Udacity has a lot of them. Coursera has a lot of them. There are other sources as well if you want to learn computer vision, cloud computing. So I will give you these slides so you can actually go to them and learn pick and choose which ones you want. But if you're first starting out, all I would suggest is two things. One, before you do anything, because there is a lot you have to learn going into this field, starting with Python, I would suggest just have a look at Learning How to Learn course. This is a free Coursera course that will teach you how our brains work and how we can, master the mental powerful tools that we can use to basically get as much content as we can in our brains and learn skills faster. And it will teach you how your brain actually changes when you learn new stuff and you learn new skills. It will also resembles well with AI because when you learn how your brain works, you can actually develop programs and that works much, much better. So going back to building the skills, when you learn that, I would then suggest you to develop a self-education AI curriculum for yourself. So if you're starting from scratch, my recommendation is you will need 1 or 2 years of just doing courses, that then you would go and do without any distraction. Just think of yourself as being in like a university. And without any distractions, just do these different types of courses and develop yourself a self-education AI curriculum. Learn Python really well. Then when you've done that or you've learned R well, then go and do other AI concepts. In fact, this is something I put together when I was on my learning journey. I have shared the link for you here. So this is a really, really nice, simple spreadsheet that pulls together all the various resources I found online. Most of them are free, and you can access it within the link I provided. And you have also categorized all the courses and all the resources, so you can actually just click on a link as well as know how much effort you will need to put in to learn these skills. If you just study this, if you just create your own curriculum from this and just go through it for a year or two, I assure you, you will learn so much and that you can easily sit down and do your own projects, and you would have, you'd have no problem with like your self-confidence in the technical skills that you would need going forward. You don't have to do all of it, by the way. Pick and choose the ones you like. The most important part is to enjoy the journey. So you don't need to structure yourself so strictly. The only thing you will need to do at the beginning is to learn Python, really well, or learn on and really well. Then pick and choose bits of the courses that you really enjoy and go from there. Um, the main thing is you have to be patient with yourself. It will take some time, and you need to develop a routine and mental mastery for going to do this and going forward. So it's a long journey, I realize. If you're starting from scratch and you have not done this before, and you want to get into tech and you want to take into data science, the main three things you will need to do after developing a list of courses that you want to do in the next few months is develop a routine. So plan in your calendar like 10 hours a week, for example, that you're going to do you're going to study on your course. So if you're working full time still, and how you have some time to yourself to work, then develop a routine so that you perform these studies then. Otherwise, if you have full time to yourself, then yes, study longer. See if you can get more hours in the week to perform this. The more you can study within these few months that you have more time, the faster you can get to the stage that you can then move on and start applying for jobs and go to the next stages, which I will share more information on. The most important part is to develop mental mastery as well. So it's going to be a long journey. One of the things I did for myself is I found an article online on 50 mindsets that will, if I just read it top to bottom, it would just give me a bit of motivation for going forward and just keep myself going forward. So I will show the link to this as well, link to this below as well. And one of the things I did is I printed this for myself, as you can see here. So if I just show you, so this is, yeah. So I printed this for myself and I posted it on the wall. Every time that I felt like, oh, this is taking too long, the jobs I'm applying for, they're not giving me what I want, and it just becomes like really, really, it's becoming like really, really, how would I say it, like discouraging. Uh, then that's what I started to do. I went through this from top to bottom, and it just gave me some bits of motivation going forward. So I will share the link this for you. It's a really useful tool, and I call it the motivation pill. Let's get back to building the skills. And lastly, be patient with yourself. It takes some time to develop these skills. So don't rush it. Enjoy the journey. And meanwhile, if you want, you can apply for jobs if you feel confident in your skills. Otherwise, don't be distracted by the things around. You've set a curriculum aside. Just go through your curriculum and start doing the courses one by one until you feel more confident in your abilities and your skills within the AI field. One of the things we're working on at the moment is developing a timeline of like what kind of courses go really well with each other, and we will share that on our website, beginnersmachinelearning.com, sometime in the future that you can go forward. The other thing as well is I myself am developing a Pandas data science course, data wrangling and visualization. So if you haven't already, subscribe to this YouTube channel. I will post videos going forward so you can actually access those as well and learn from those. And my teaching style is that I rather teach you with a project than just teach you, okay, here is how to wrangle, here's how to join tables, here's how to like read in tables. So I wouldn't teach like that. I would just like give you a problem and say, here you go, here's a data feed, go listen to this data feed, wrangle it and save it into a CSV file. So you can follow this channel as well, so that when we post those YouTube courses, you would you would get the notification and you would be able to start practicing right away. So you started learning. It's been taking a few months, maybe a year or two, and you started feeling like, okay, I know some of my stuff now. The next question is, how can you become an expert? So you want to get to the stage that you're really so confident that others come to you to ask you for questions on the skill set. So if you're really good at deep learning, and everyone in your family knows that you're good at deep learning, you start getting requests from people to help you with things, so you can help them with stuff. So my suggestion is only study technical courses that interest you. You don't need to go and study like, I don't know, if you don't, some of the courses are foundational, like Git, version control, and things like that. But if you, for example, are not interested in natural language processing, you don't need to study natural language processing. If you're more interested in computer vision, study computer vision. You don't need to become expert in all of them. Just pick an area, become an expert in that, and that would narrow down your options, makes your life much easier to get a job in that specific field. If you're a jack of all trades, master of none, that would not help you in your search for a career and for your job. The other thing I would suggest you to do is keep a log of all the courses, topics you come across, like I did in the spreadsheet before, so that you don't get overwhelmed. Every time you come across a new term and you're like, okay, I need to learn this as well. Oh my God, so much going on. All you have to do is just log it in your spreadsheet and then just move on with your life. When you're finished with your current courses and you're looking for inspiration what to do next, go back to your list and then just pick one thing that interests you. It's just the main point is that you need to enjoy it. You just enjoy the journey. It's going to take you 1 year to 3 years to switch to AI career. And the most important thing to make sure you get there is that you're enjoying the journey and you continue doing it. Lastly, I would suggest you to start creating content as well. Don't just consume information. Don't just do courses. When you do 1 year or 2 years of courses, at some point you feel like pretty much stuff that you're doing is the same. You're not learning anything new. At that point, I would suggest you to start creating content. Write papers, write blog posts, take a random data set on the internet, analyze it and visualize it and do ML on it. Like create a model and then see if you can turn it into some kind of tutorials that you can share on the internet. That way, you gradually start building your personal brand. And the other thing that it will help you is that just reading content from a page or listening to YouTube videos, it doesn't help you learn properly. The best way for you to learn, as you can see in Bloom taxonomy, is the 3 bits at the top. When you sit down and analyze the content of that you want to teach and how different bits, different dots connect to each other, you try to come up with your own point of view, and then you start teaching that. And you start creating content, you start creating a course to teach something with your own point of view that would allow you to really, really learn something. And that's what I did when I first started. So in the first 1 year or 2 years, I was just basically studying. I wasn't doing anything other than just doing courses. And then gradually I set up this group and I started creating online workshops, or I started creating offline workshops at my meetup groups. It felt really intimidating, especially for the first workshop. I felt like I'm not qualified for this. Why should I teach? But if you start teaching and teaching, yeah, you might not be qualified at the beginning, but halfway through, if you're doing it for a year, you are well more qualified than other rest of your peers to be able to do those things, because the process of like trying to put content together and to teach, it helps you really, really learn something, and it really sticks in your mind. So you don't have to go back to your courses left and right and like write flashcards and all those things to help you learn. It just makes the process much, much faster, and it also helps you build a personal brand, which is the next section of this webinar that I'm going to talk about. So, what do you do to achieve mastery? Study courses, pick the courses that you really enjoy, teach and write and create content after you study these courses. So teach it to others. So give back to the community, as well as, you know, while you're creating these courses, help yourself learn the concepts better. When you're like trying to teach a topic and you don't understand it fully, you will not be able to teach it really clearly. You will stumble upon questions people ask, and like, okay, I don't know. And it gives you a very good overview of like where all the holes and all the holes in your knowledge are. Especially for yourself, you start questioning your expertise, and you go and like research, okay, what's the answer to this question before I go and start teaching it. So it allows you to really have a review of like your knowledge tree and be able to fill up all the gaps. Lastly, the other way to build expertise is to strive for achieving certifications. Remember, I'm talking about certifications. I'm not talking about certificates. There are two very separate things. I see a lot of people on LinkedIn and that they do a bunch of courses and they keep posting their certificates online. That's really good that you're doing courses, but that's not enough. Just posting certificates on your LinkedIn and like listing them up is not going to help you to get a job or switch careers, because it's more of you're telling people that you know something, you're not showing them that you're doing something. Oh, someone just asked, do you want a certificate for this webinar? Obviously, we can also provide you with a certificate for this webinar if you're interested. Basically, I would suggest certificates are like droplets of water. You don't build an ocean with just droplets. You need a lot of droplets. So if you really want to go down the certificate route, I would suggest get a lot of them. Get a lot of certificates and build them up and create like a massive archive of certificates so that you can show you've done a lot of courses and stuff. But that's a very long and lonely route. Instead, I would suggest instead of certificates, create content. So if you've done a course and you want to show that you've done the course, create content to teach it to others. So if you've done a course on, like, I don't know, quantum computing, go create a course on quantum computing on the topics that you're comfortable about and teach it to others. If you're not comfortable about creating a course, just go and build something. So if you don't like to go and, like, I don't know, what's it called? If you don't like putting yourself out there in terms of like speaking in front of other people and like putting video very comfortable for you, I would suggest just come up with a project and work on that and use those technologies in the project. Um, like it could be sit down and have a think what kind of problems you have in your life that if with a software with a tool you would have, it would make it much easier for you to it would might make it much easier for you to if you had that tool. For example, one of my friends wanted to cook some food, and he didn't have. He wanted a recipe app that would just give it what leftovers you have in the fridge, and it would give you the right recipes just using those leftovers. He just came up with an app idea for that, and you can do the same with like the knowledge you have. Just sit down and think about like the problems you have in your life that would make your life much easier. If you made something that would be a useful tool, it would help you much more compared to just going out and getting certificates. People don't care about certificates, unfortunately, especially hiring managers. So it's if you want to stand out, you can stand out way more if you like post a YouTube video or you post your projects on your LinkedIn and social media compared to just posting your certificates. However, there is an exception, and that is for cloud certifications. So first of all, if you know cloud skills, you are a very rare gem. I would suggest it's a really good investment to learn either Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud Platform, depending on what you want to work on. So if you want to work for enterprises, you want to go work for a big company, and you want to go for a consultancy that services big companies and enterprises, I would suggest to learn Azure because they may mostly use Azure platform. But if you want to work in startups, 80% of the world's companies and other small, medium enterprises and startups, they build products with AWS, Amazon Web Services, and Google Cloud Platform. So depending on what you want to do, I would suggest to go and learn the cloud skills that will help you really excel in your career. Become certified. Become certified with these cloud platforms. So ensure Microsoft certifies you, ensure Amazon certifies you, and put it on your profile really nicely that says I'm certified Amazon developer. It speaks loudly in terms of your skills. These exams and certifications are hard, so they're not just an easy course you go and do. They're hard certifications, and if you get them in industry, they're very valid, and people will be very impressed and recognize it. So that's the only place that I would recommend getting certificates. And lastly, I would suggest build something, anything. Find a problem, apply the tech on it. As I said, don't go finding. See if you can apply the tech on it. Normally, the solutions you will come up with is not that good because usually it's much better if you notice a problem and build a solution for it. But because you're trying to go and find a problem for a specific technology, which is AI, the problems may not always matter, but it doesn't matter building something. It's more about just practicing your skills. And if you have problems with coming up with project ideas, I would suggest attending hackathons. That's a really good way to find problems that would help you getting interested. So this is an example of a curriculum that someone has produced before. So just wanted to show you, you can just have a Trello board. You don't need like a massive spreadsheet, and you can just drop cards in there. Okay, I did this course, I did that course, and this is the certificate I need to do and go from there. For getting AI certifications, there are basically all of the Microsoft and Amazon and Google, they all three have learning paths, and most of them start with fundamentals. And I would suggest doing the fundamentals. You don't need to get the certification for it. You can straight jump to associate certifications if you want. I did myself the Azure Data Scientist Associate certification, and all I did was just use Microsoft Learn. So Microsoft has a learning platform that teaches you AI certifications, and all you need to do is doing that. You don't need to go and do pay a company to learn it. It's all free online. You can go to Microsoft website and you can go to Amazon website and learn it all from there. There are really good resources out there that are free. And the certifications I recommend is usually try to take those that are related to AI and data. So data engineering, AI engineering, and so on. Data engineering is more about building the pipeline for data and more about which algorithms to use to develop models. It's more about statistics. It's more about how to analyze data and visualize it and so on. And AI engineer is more about product management side. So managing an AI product or using more the pre-built models online. So it's more about like if there is usually these cloud platforms that provide you with pre-built models. You don't need to create the models from scratch, and it's all about building applications on top of these models. That's what AI engineer roles are about. AWS as well has a learning path for data scientists. I think there is a data scientist path and there's a machine learning specialty path. So I would suggest doing AWS course as well. It's really, really useful. These certifications will take you about 2 or 3 months to do, but they're really worth it, and the exams are not very expensive as well. It's about £150 per exam. So I would suggest getting these, and these are the kind of certifications you will want on your profile. Put yourself out there and increase your chances. Lastly, there are a few books that I definitely recommend. I have gone through them and I found them really, really, really nice and really useful. You don't need to just pick and choose the ones you're interested in. Python for data analysis is really good for data wrangling and learning pandas. If you want to get good at that. Deep learning with Python is really good if you want to learn Keras, you want to learn the TensorFlow and Keras and how to perform deep learning. Data science from scratch gives you a proper overview of the data science field, and it's a really good resource to go to. And the other one is hands-on machine learning with scikit-learn. So this one gives you a proper overview of all the libraries and how all of them fit together, and it's very practical. So you can learn quite a lot from it. Deep Learning, Grok in Deep Learning by Andrew Trask. So Andrew is a pioneer of privacy and AI preserving data preserving and privacy AI. And this is more about if you want to really understand at the maths level, under the hood, what's happening when you develop a neural, what's happening with the numbers in the neural network as they go around from one side to the next. And then we also have some bits on data visualization as well as natural language processing. Just to show you, I've got the natural language processing. I've got this machine learning book here. It's huge. So I wouldn't recommend going there until you want to become an expert to the field. I still need to finish this. You also have the data science from scratch. So that's the other book that I would suggest, and this book. These are really good books. So if you can get them, only get them. They're really worth it. They will allow you to develop your skills much better. But don't start with books, start with courses and then go to books, because books are a bit more, so if you already feel like courses are very slow for you and it's like it's not your learning style, then get books. It makes your life much faster. But books at the beginning could be overwhelming because they straight jump into like technical details and you may not, they may be hard to follow, especially with the learning curve suddenly jumping up and down with the books. Like they could be teaching you 1+1 and suddenly want you to develop an AI model. So do the courses first, and when you become more comfortable and you want to become an expert, go get the books and study from the books and finish them. They're really good resources. Now, the next section is about building a personal brand. Building a personal brand is about putting yourself out there in a way that you would stand a head and leg outside of the crowd. So imagine you want to go apply for jobs on LinkedIn and you see 30 people have already applied to a job. what would let me go back to this books. People want to see it. What would be exactly how would you what would set you aside? Um, that's the process that I want to talk about, is how can you set yourself apart from rest of the crowd so you can maximize your chances for getting the job. Um, So let's get started. So the first thing I want you to do before you go and do anything else, before you go and start applying for jobs, is I want you to have a really hard think about your personal values, like what you value, what industry you value, what you want to do in your life and in your career, and what interesting roles you would like. So, do you like to work in finance? Do you like to work in healthcare? Do you like to work in like transport? Uh, which industry do you like to work in? For myself, I hated working for ad tech companies. I don't like it, or marketing, or those kind of things. I don't like to do. I hate to work for a gambling company. It's just not something I want to wake up every day and go do. So I don't like to work in those industries. Roles. I don't like to do DevOps. It's just it's just headache. It's fun to learn, but it's just headache. But the roles I would like the most is data science, because you develop algorithms, you work with data, you have to think, you have statistics, so many things to learn, you have so many tools. Um, what I want to do is I want you to be very descriptive, sit down and write down what your ideal job looks like before you go and apply for jobs. That document that you write, what your job looks like and what your ideal industry looks like, will become your Northern Star when you start applying for jobs. And it will help you be very picky in terms of like what jobs you apply for. So it would reduce your headaches in terms of like you not being a match for the company and for the role, and then not applying for job anyway because you don't like it and they don't like you. So this is very important step. Find your values, what you value. I don't value working for gambling companies. Find what industry you want to work with. I thought railway industry is a good industry to work with because you have a massive impact if you can use data science technologies to reduce train delays. And free, the roles you like. I like the science more than data engineering. It's just setting up cloud infrastructure is it's a bit of a headache. You must bugs, so you need to have a more like a problem solving personality for that kind of role. So you may find it more. You may find that algorithms and data science and things like that is just like a headache for you. So think what you really love, and while you're doing these courses, do a variety of them in variety of roles, engineering and data science and AI, and figure out which bits you enjoy the most. And that is the kind of role you want to focus on and become an expert in and develop your personal brand around. In terms of the industry, study on, do a bit of research to figure out what kind of industries use AI, how. Like ad tech industries mostly use AI for recommender systems and chatbots. Like most marketing, they use it for customer segmentation. They use it for doing predicting sentiment analysis on social media and those kind of stuff. Finance use it for predicting, like for example, stock trades. So these three industries, the few industries I've shown here, are the most that use these technologies, but I would suggest there are other industries. There is a new course on deep learning AI and medicine AI. If you want to go work in healthcare, that's a really great course to study. Railway industry, Network Rail has started doing. They now have a budget now for machine learning, and they want to start putting more machine learning projects out there. Our company does it for them. So computer vision, for example. So pretty much most of the industries are starting to adopt these technologies. Figure out what industry you want, what kind of projects you like to work on, and what kind of roles you want to work on. And that would help you narrow down your search in terms of for the job. And when you apply, it's like finding love. It's that's the first that's the kind of job you want to spend the rest of your life with, kind of thing. So it would make your life much easier when you get there. Just in terms of some AI trends, this slide is old, it's like 2 years ago. So I would suggest do your research and find if you can find a new slide. Chatbots, autonomous vehicles are kind of like thing right now, just because they have a high growth and high volume in terms of like how much you can get from it. But it wouldn't technologies like computer vision and natural language processing are also worth learning because they're really good. Predictive analytics, they may be good. They have quite a lot of growth, but they more come into like when you want to build analytics dashboards for like other companies and B2B clients. So consult like AI trends charts and research AI trends that would help you with figuring out what kind of technologies and what kind of roles you want to work with. And then when you have figured those things out, then you can focus on building your personal brand. So after you thought about what industry roles you want to work out there, I would suggest you to first create a GitHub account and make sure your LinkedIn profile is set up properly. Fill out your positions that you've already undertaken and make sure to write up your whole profile in a way that would make you a field that you want to work in. So I wanted to work in AI. I was a mechanical engineer and systems engineer. I wanted to work into AI. So I reframed all of my skills, all of my past experiences, putting most of the spotlight on the bits of my work that use these technologies and use the AI technologies. I would suggest also to start a big blog and become active on social media. Post your opinions in terms of like how you think future. Everyone would love like different angles from you. So it's not a crowded market. Everyone loves reading this stuff. Post tutorials online. Like if you for your project you took a data set and you wrangled it around and you visualized something, write a blog post around it. And it is that thing that I told you about. It's about showing your skill, showing your expertise, than just telling people about it. Like posting certificates online is about telling, showing, posting your tutorials that you've written, content you've created. That's about showing. And if you don't like to create content, you don't like to talk and put yourself out there in terms of like on videos or like on blogs, having a blog, I would then suggest just do a personal project and post it on GitHub and share that link. Share that you've learned and you've built. And if you do it consistently for like a few months or for a year, gradually you will start to create you will start to create that expertise and that personal branding. So you get headhunted instead of like going and finding for jobs. Most of the great opportunities come to you this way, and this will help you build your network as well. People will reach out to you for help. You get an easier time finding mentors. To give you an example, this is how I built mine. So I thought it's always better to just give some examples. On the right-hand side, you can see my GitHub account. And on the left-hand side, you can see my LinkedIn account. So let's start with LinkedIn and analyze my LinkedIn account. So one of the things I've done is I have purchased LinkedIn Premium. It would allow me to allow me to get more insights from LinkedIn. And it would when you apply for jobs, it would tell you how many people have applied, what their background is, how much you stand a chance of getting a job. So it's really good. Like it's really worth £30 a month to get that LinkedIn Premium, and you get a really nice icon next to your name, and you come up on search engines much faster, like on their LinkedIn search. I think it also comes with LinkedIn Learning. So LinkedIn Learning is lynda.com. If you heard that before, and they have loads and loads of courses on data science and other skill sets. So if you don't like to, if you want to just like learn creative skills, you can get that. I would suggest getting certified and putting your certification initials in your next to your role, and so that it comes up when you like being active around social media. It comes down next to your name. And also, I would focus on building the network. So go to meetup groups, meet people, add them on LinkedIn, reach out to people that you're interested in. If you see like an engineer in the industry working or a data scientist in the industry working that you really like, just connect to them and say, hey, I really like your stuff. I was wondering if you can like mentor me, or I could follow you for guidance and information, or ask you for questions if I have any. That would be really cool. And build your connection this way. And if people have any problems, ask help them answer it as well. I would suggest being concise and helping people, categorizing you in your mind when you write about yourself. Straight away, say how many years of experience you have in what field and industry, who you are and what you do, and why you do it. And if you have worked with other clients before, you can mention them here. And if you've done any, like, you think about your biggest achievement to date. My biggest achievement was setting up this group, for example, and I'm really proud of it. So I put that in here, and I just basically gave some numbers in terms of like the growth rate of the group and how much impact it had on the community. So that you basically can keep everything in here, and all my experiences that I had before that was not relevant to AI, I just got rid of them. So I had like some other experiences volunteering or working for other companies that my role was not in AI. I just got rid of them, completely deleted them. Like, I don't know, a few months of my life didn't matter. It's not related to the personal branding I want to put out there. So I just kept all the roles and jobs and rewrote all the experiences I had previously in terms of with the angle of AI, the angle that the fact that I'm an expert in this field. And this is how I want you to categorize me. Especially look at how I've put the pictures for my banner and stuff. So I wanted people to easily categorize me. Ali is this guy that knows about AI. That's it. I would suggest doing the same. It just makes much easier for recruiters and hiring managers, or even like if you want to start your own company, co-founders, to really categorize you as the expert in the specific field in the field of AI. If you're applying to companies, some of them may want to check your GitHub account as your portfolio. So GitHub could be used as your portfolio. I know most people don't use it as portfolio. I personally like to use it as portfolio. I think it's really nice to have all of my things there, like my best work, and it motivates me to work even on better projects to be able to showcase it. But you don't have to use it like that. You could just use it for just keeping track of your code. But if you want to use it as a portfolio to help you stand out, here are my suggestions. Get a professional photo, post that up. Then I would then suggest, when it comes to pinning the repositories that you want to mention, pick the best repos that you have, and make sure you pick at least 6. So you pick all the 6 repo pins that you can. So if you have 12 repos, just pick 6 of them. That is your best work. If you really don't think you don't have 6 that are really good, just pick 3 then, like pick less than 6. But one of the things I did here, I was really strategic about placing my pins, is that I only place repos in here that would showcase different technologies that I'm good with. So I'm good with JavaScript, I'm good with C++, Python, CSS, and Jupyter Notebooks. So I strategically selected projects and placed them here that would allow me to showcase all the various skills that I know technically. And I made sure that all of them have small descriptions, small prints. And some of the things I did as well was that, like, I would have a repo that I would just basically, it's called playground repo. So a playground repo allows you to just post various mini projects there. They don't deserve their own repos, but they're just basically where you experiment with code and experiment with other projects and courses and content, and you just basically put the code there. It just gradually builds up into this massive repo with full of content and all the things you've done. So that's one of the things I've done. Down here, you would see my contributions over the past year. The first thing that people notice when they come to your GitHub account, especially hiring managers, if they're like trying to see how active you are in terms of coding, they will look at this history matrix, and if it's kind of green, mostly green, that means that you're an active contributor either in open source communities or like you have some kind of project that you're actively working on. The good thing is that you're passionate about coding and you're coding every day, and that's what it basically shows you. So if you're using other platforms to host your repo and you're coding every day, make that platform as your portfolio. I use GitHub. And GitHub has this really nice feature with the distribution of how much, what your activities look like mostly. So I mostly commit code, but I've done some code reviews recently, and I've done some pull requests where I have contributed to other people's projects. And it's starting to show that 5% of my activities are code reviews and 2% are pull requests. In fact, and issues are basically about if you find issues in other people's codes and you post that. Ideally, you want your profile to show this as a diamond. So that's that you have a normal distribution, that you have basically distribution of like, this guy is like very well rounded, or this girl is very well rounded, is doing all sorts of things. I don't think I've met many people that have a diamond profile. but that's something to strive for. Lastly, I would suggest keeping this very, very concise, what you do, like your profile. Put your blog link here and be active in the community. Join organizations that you can work on projects together. Maybe have your own organization on your profile where you can, if you're going to create tutorials, for example, you could post them in the organizations. So creating, like when I created a meetup group, I created a BML organization, and all of the tutorials I post in there when I create a new tutorial. And lastly, on your LinkedIn, if you're gonna showcase your certificates, be very picky what you show. Just show a few because people will not go through your certificates. You want to show the certificate part will only show 3 to 5 max. So pick and choose the ones you really want to be shown. So for junior, and that took me 5 years to get, and 5 years of experience and 5 years of sitting. So that is really hard. And I wanted this to be shown at the top. And I got rid of all the other certifications I had. So if I did like a data camp course and I had a certificate for that, I got rid of those. So I only have my Azure certification, my project fundament, my APM certification, and my chartered engineer certification. And like these are some of the things you can get certified to as well. They're not that hard to get. Project fundamentals qualification allows you to show that you could get project management, and your cloud certifications allows you to showcase that you are also able to work with cloud technologies. So this shows how you can set up your GitHub account and LinkedIn accounts. And lastly, the last 3 points I would suggest you to do is join Kaggle competitions. Find role models in the industry that you can learn from. So I have the chief data scientist of Google. I don't remember her name, but she's very good with the statistics. And I would like to, she's very good with the statistics, and I really enjoy reading her content, and I follow her. So find some people in the industry that you really want to strive to become that good at, and follow them, learn from them, and read their content. Reach out to senior people in the industry who are not like celebrities, but like very senior people, or they have like some kind of personal branding, some kind of expertise, and just ask them that you really like what you see in their profile, you want to connect with them, and you ask them if they can mentor you into AI, and you kind of lost, you want to get started somewhere, and just ask them for help. It's very important to be able to ask for help. Don't try to do all of this journey by yourself. It's way much easier if you can just ask for help and go from there. And lastly, hackathons and Kaggle competitions. So if you don't like hackathons, Kaggle competitions, I suggest creating content, YouTube videos, blog posts, tutorials, courses. If you don't like tutorials, courses, and stuff like that, and you don't like to create those, you can also do Kaggle competitions, and you can do projects, and you can do hackathons. So you can stuff, or you can focus on joining competitions. I got my current jobs by joining the hackathon by Hack Partners. And focus, and when you join hackathons, just do a couple of them. Don't go in thinking that, oh, I should win. Focus on winning, obviously, but your most important thing is to just grow your network and just to learn, because you see people who are really good and who really much further in the learning stage than you, and when you see them and you meet them in there, you learn so much from them that you may not learn previously. I didn't, for example, when I went to my first hackathon, I didn't even know how to use VS Code. And I saw some person developing an API on VS Code, and I was like, wow, you can run terminal commands in VS Code and all of those things. I used to just do it from my terminal, my scripts, and I learned that I could do it from VS Code as well. This kind of stuff I've learned just doing hackathons that you would not normally learn just by doing courses. Some places that I would suggest you to visit is Kaggle. So Kaggle is online competitions for data science. They provide you with kernels. You can even do deep learning on them for free. And they provide you with all the data set, and they have some tutorials as well how to get started. Really great place to go to. Crowd AI is another place as well, and that you can get to. And lastly, DevPost. So if you're searching for hackathons to do, you can go on DevPost, and I think most of these hackathons are now online. Some of them are related to COVID-19, some of them are non-related. So you can pick the ones you like and sign up for them. They're really good. They help you find friends, people you want to study together, and it's really good. I would definitely suggest it. The hackathon I myself attended was called Hackatrain. We're having Hack Partners is organizing another Hackatrain for this year. It's going to be virtual and it's going to be November, I think in October or November. And the subject of that hackathon is to develop products for the rail industry that would improve passenger experience and reduce train delays. Or, for example, how to, or in relation to COVID-19, how to perform the railway so that supplies get around the country much better. So, and how to use AI to do that. So you can join that hackathon later on. So I won this hackathon that allowed me to get my current job as a senior data scientist. Perfect. So that hackathons, competitions, and just focusing on building your personal brand is something that you do over time. And meanwhile, you can start applying for jobs as well. Just be very picky what jobs you apply for. And one thing I would suggest is that it's easier to get jobs through your network compared to just job boards. So if you can just reach out to people on LinkedIn and ask them about their specific roles and just build a relationship with them, it's much easier for you to get there compared to if you just apply through job boards. Job boards may feel like some kind of hole that you throw your stones into and you don't hear anything back. So it can be very discouraging. It's much easier to get jobs through other avenues. And this avenue that I'm telling you now, to building your personal brand and building a presence online, and that's one way of doing it, so that it makes your life much, much easier, and you have something to talk about in your resumes when you're trying to sell yourself to the company. But let's say that you have got a job and you want to get a work visa. One of the things I suggest is how to get a work visa is basically you will want to only apply for companies that can sponsor you, or are willing to sponsor you. One thing I have to mention is that some of us, I myself, I'm Iranian, so I needed a work visa to be able to work in the UK. And when I was a student, I was one of the things I used to do is I would go onto the government register of licensed sponsors and find a list of companies that are sponsored companies. They can sponsor your visa, and I would only apply to them. So if I see a company that's not on the list and they have some kind of roll up, I would not apply to them. So I would suggest you doing the same. Read the guidance on applications. This was true as well for me when I was trying to change jobs from my previous job to my current job, which is more AI related. This guidance note provides a lot of good information in terms of like what you need to do to make sure you maximize your chances for getting a UK visa. So always, before you apply for any role, read the job description. Check that the company is on the government register of licensed sponsors. So this is just a document that looks like this. It's a document of list of companies that are sponsored, as you can see here, what kind of sponsorship they hold. And if I go back to the slides, you will need some salary requirements to meet to be able to get a UK visa. So depending on the role you're applying for, you will need to check what salary requirements you will need to have to be able to get a visa for that specific role. If that role is on the shortage occupation list, the company will not need to prove to the UK government that that you're the only right person for the job. If that role is not on the shortage occupation list, you will need to do something called the market labor test, where they will have to prove to the UK that no one else can do this job who is a British citizen. With software engineering roles and roles in tech, you don't have most of those roles are in the shortage occupation list. So that means you don't need to do that market labor test. So that's a good win for you. So before applying for any jobs, I would suggest to read the job description first do you match that role? If you do, check that they can sponsor you. And even if you're putting your profiles like on other websites for others to search you, say that you need a visa, so that you don't waste your time, you don't waste their time. So only companies search you that they can sponsor you. And check the role, check the salary that they want to give you, and make sure that you meet all of these. Contact the hiring manager as well, just to make sure that they can sponsor you. Sometimes the companies will not provide information on their job description, whether they will sponsor you or not. Contact them. If they're good to go, then only apply. But then if you're applying, make sure you apply perfectly. Insured. And then the lastly is that the UK visa system is a points-based system. What that means is that, let's say they will only give you visas if you get 60 points. If you get 50 points, doesn't matter who you are, you will not get a visa. If you get 70 points, doesn't matter who you are, you will get a visa. So it's a points-based system, and all you will need to do is you will need to make sure that you get all of these points. The guidance document will have a list of what these points are. Some of these points are related to do with maintenance funds. So for example, maintenance funds means that when you are changing categories from like student visa to work, you will need to have £1,000 in your bank account for the last 3 months when you're applying. What that means is that while you're changing job, while you're setting in your new job and stuff, support yourself for a few months with that money. You may need English language testing certificates if you're applying from outside the country, and you will need a certificate of sponsorship. That's the biggest point. So if you don't have that, that's probably 50 points off. You will definitely not get a visa without that certificate of sponsorship. You will need to apply. You will need to, for example, pay for NHS surcharge, as has £200 a year. So if you want to apply for a 3-year visa, that's £600. And depending on how fast you want to fast track the process, that's like different costs as well. So make sure you save up money for those. Getting a visa costs you about I think £1,000 to £3,000, depending on how long you want to apply, how long you want to get the visa for. But first, check these, then apply. When you apply, get the certificate, the company is happy. Then most of the process is done. The rest is just about getting your biometrics done. If you need to do an interview, going to the interview, and it's about just making sure documents are there when you apply, and just do it properly. Some of the companies may be able to help you with that. So some companies may just take your passport away and give you the visa back. Other companies may want you to go to the visa application center yourself and apply in person, but they may help you with that, or they may hire you a lawyer, an immigration lawyer, to help you with that. So you can ask for these as well in your salary negotiations to get that support if you need that support. Just make sure that you get the visa. So in terms of like the list of companies, there are many of them. There are 32,000 companies in the UK currently that they can sponsor you. You don't need to apply for big companies. I would actually suggest, if you can find work in a startup. Working in a startup is way more rewarding. You may also be able to get equity, which is really good. It's one of the best ways, other than salary, to get money, to basically increase your income. And there are 2,000 pages of this company. So go through this and see if the company you want to apply to is on this specific role. And lastly, I would want to suggest that you check the shortage occupation list for the role that you're applying to. So for example, there is a SOC code 2136 for programmers and software development professionals with a level 6. So it will take a lot of education to get to this level, to get to this skill set. And these are the kind of things that you may be doing within this role. And this role is on the shortage occupation list. That means you don't need to do residence market label test. So the company doesn't need to prove to the UK government that a British citizen can do this job as well. No other British citizen can do this job. But in order to get the certificate of sponsorship issued to you, is that you need to make sure that the role that they want to give you, you have a minimum salary of 25 or 32K. Usually this shouldn't be an issue. Normally the data science roles are paid way more than that on average. If a company is giving you a data science role for less than that, just don't bother, or negotiate it up. For a data science role, you're aiming for 40 to 60,000 pounds. If you're a senior, then you can go higher, or you can go like between 50 to 70. If you lead data scientist, 70 to 80 to 90. For like a head of AI, you can go from 80 to 100. You can go up. So that brings me down to the last section of our webinar, which is about building your AI career. I would suggest two things. So let's say you've got a visa, you've got the job, you're now working in the field. How can you grow your AI career from there going forward? You have two ways to do it. You can either, grow in your company, like, get more responsibilities and just go up the ladder in terms of responsibilities, or like go across the ladder. You can like, switch roles and stuff, like work and get various skill sets from different roles, or you can start your own startup, which I will cover next. Basically, to develop your AI career, the best things to do, as I said, create stuff, build something, start a project, solve a problem people care about, start a group. It's more about giving back to the community, and it's more about like building things. So the more you build stuff, the more you create content, create courses, give back to the community, the more you put yourself out there for opportunities to come to you. And with careers, it's not linear. So one thing I realized is that careers are not something that you can plan. You can't like plan it. Your career is not going to be linear. You're going to have opportunities presented to you that you had no idea. Or COVID, for example, happens, and you have no idea this happens to you, and you just have to deal with it in the moment. So you can have a direction of your career that you want to go to, but you cannot plan your career like a line. Okay, like I do this and I do that and I do that. All you have to do is you try your best, you have a direction, and you go from there. So the other thing I want you to do is realize that you can level up by skipping steps in your career. So people think that, okay, if I want to become a lead data scientist, I need to become data scientist, then senior data scientist, then stay there for like 5 years, then become lead. Depending on how you've done your personal branding and how you've built your expertise, you can skip steps. So if you have, depending on your background. So sometimes you don't have to go back to go forward. If you're changing careers, you don't have to drop your salary levels to go in the right direction. So for example, for me, in my previous career, which was engineering, my salary was not very high. So when I was negotiating salary for my new role, I could actually get a higher salary and change careers. So if you're in your career, you have a higher salary, you may need to drop back to be able to go up when you're changing careers. But if your salary is already low and you think you already believe that you're getting underpaid, when you switch careers, your salary gets a bump, plus you go to work for in a field that you want to work in. So for most of you, I think this is the case. And when it comes to salary negotiations, know your worth, know how much you're worth and what you know and what responsibilities you want, and clearly communicate your salary expectations. And then if they want to bring it down, then you can negotiate. And then the way you negotiate is you use the briefcase technique. So the briefcase techniques is a technique where you research the company and you figure out all the ways that you can bring value to the table. And then when you go to the interview and to the negotiations, as if you're just basically going down and picking up your briefcase and you're putting it up on the table to like take documents out of it, like this. So just as if like you're going to be like, okay, actually, I wanted to talk to you about some stuff. You do the same thing over there in the negotiations, and then that way you can basically tell them more about how other ways you can bring value to the table, and then use that as negotiation tool to increase the salaries. So if you want to know how much salary you're worth, I would suggest doing your research online on Glassdoor to see what the average salaries are for data scientists. I think it's about 40 to 60K for data scientists. For junior scientists, maybe 30 to 50. And I think for seniors, about 50 to 70. And you can go around these places. Obviously, your background is matters. Do you remember that circle chart I showed you? The circle chart that I showed you with the purple sorry, with the brown circle, your background could make you could set you apart from the rest of the crowd quite massively. So it's a combination of your skills and backgrounds that makes you very unique and very valuable to a company. So you can use that as a leverage. And lastly, I want you to be extremely picky with the jobs you apply for. But when you apply to them, apply perfectly. One of the processes I used when I was at uni to apply for jobs, I applied for 200 jobs before I could get a job, but I got 2 offers. And that is to do 2 things. One is have a calendar of basically days you want to apply for jobs. So say I want to apply for 1 job a day, or I want to apply to 3 jobs a week. Then stick to that calendar. And when you're applying for jobs, be very, very good as a date. It's like you want to go on a date, you'll be very picky. Be very picky in terms of like what jobs you want to apply for. And make sure that it matches your values, it matches the industries you want to work with and the role you want to work with and the salary expectations. And if you need a visa, it matches your visa requirements. And then when you apply to that, research the hell out of the company and think about all the ways you can bring value to the table and match your skills and experience to the skills and experience that they have put on the job description. So if they say we want someone with 3 years pandas experience, say I'm a data scientist with 3 years pandas experience, blah 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 blah. So like straight away they can match the job description to your skill sets. It just makes it easier for them to know, okay, this is the person we want to interview. And when you apply, your aim is just to get the interview. So write concisely. Just say the minimum. So how can you write it up in a way that you can? How can you write it up in a way that you can use the less words and communicate the most out? And when I say apply perfectly, it means apply as if you spend 1 day on that one job application full time, and you write it up. That makes it very perfect, and you make sure it's a perfect application. You send it out. But because you've already been very picky, it's a very great match for you. You know this company is, then this role is a great match for you. And then when you give them a perfect application, they know they're a perfect company and great match for you, and it just helps you get the job much faster. You can also contact the hiring managers after you apply and tell them you applied and tell them you're looking forward to the interview and stuff. So I would recommend doing that just to put yourself out there in terms of get standing out from the crowd in that regards. And then one thing I want you to realize when it comes to salaries is that I've seen people in their 20s when they come to apply for jobs, they are asking for salaries above 80K, even though they're in their 20s. And some of them they do get it. They do get the jobs. And that basically is a self-fulfilling prophecy where they think they're worth 80K and they apply for the jobs. They may have those skills, they may be underqualified for the jobs, but they do get the jobs. And because they are underqualified for the jobs, they learn a lot. They can still do the job. They learn a lot doing it, and they become qualified then for those kind of jobs. And then their salary expectations go even higher, and then that raises their benchmark up. If you understand what this means, so make sure that the jobs you apply for, as well, you kind of underqualified for them. So if it's intimidating, apply for it. There is a high chance that they may not have a lot of applications that are good, so you may be the best application. And there's a chance as well that you get it. Your salaries could be a big jump in your salary, and there is a chance that you're underqualified. Learn a lot in that job, and that could like fast track your career the most. You fast track your career the most when you work on things, you work on projects, and you work on jobs that you're underqualified for. So that's if you want to work for a company. But some people don't want to work for a company. They want to do their own thing. In that way, I would suggest the first thing you need to do if you want to do your own thing and you start your own startup is to just do the Y Combinator startup school. So Y Combinator is a accelerator in the US, one of the most famous accelerators. They have funded likes of Airbnb and I think Reddit and those kind of like big massive companies. And I think so far they've funded like about 2,000 to 4,000 companies now. They're working with YC as a startup. And a lot of things that you will learn in this 8-week course is very relevant to AI, and it's very relevant to building something that people want. Their philosophy is that instead of going and looking for a solution, say looking for an idea that then you can fit a solution to, is more about notice a problem in your life that you have, or notice a problem that your friends have, and then try to solve that problem. Solve a problem people care about, and then that if that problem is big enough, a lot of people want it, and a lot of people are willing to pay for it, then that becomes the idea for your startup. And don't try to use the wrong tool for solving that problem. Focus on the right tool for it. If that tool happens to be AI, then perfect. If not, then it doesn't matter. What matters is more that it's that you're solving that problem. And if that startup is giving you a career, then that's your career. You don't need to go into AI to do it. AI is just a tool. So if you learn AI and the tool, and you stumble up and you solve that problem, and a lot of people are willing to pay for it, and you're doing all the right things that they tell you about in the startup school, then you can build a startup as well, and you can get funding for it. And one thing I would want to suggest is that startups like in AI or hard tech, it's much easier to get funding for compared to if you just build an app startup or an ad tech startup, because it's more ambitious, it's more inspiring for the investors and for the people who want to work for you and you work on your startup. And you will have a much easier time getting the funding and getting the talent to build your startup. So if you can be more ambitious and going for a startup that is a bit way above your head, do that. Be more ambitious. You can always go back to if it always fails, you can always go back one step. So this is the one I would suggest to do when you want to do your startup. In terms of so that kind of like concludes our webinar. If you guys want to know more in terms of how to grow your career, I would suggest these books. Really great on how to grow a career if you are working for other companies. 80,000hour.org is about, you have 80,000 hours in your career. How would you go about spending that? Doing good better is about how can you be when you're doing good to others, how can you be more effective in doing that? Ego is the enemy is something that would may prevent you from getting the opportunities you always wanted. So you may be perfect technically on the paper, but you don't get the job because your ego didn't let you get it. So these are really great books. And then the rest are about how to become a key influencer in the industry and in the field, and establishing yourself as an expert as your personal branding. Mastery is about how to become an expert. So some tips and things from Robert Greene to become an expert. Same thing with So Good That They Can't Ignore You. So these are really, really great books in terms of the mindsets to develop, and the ideas in them are profound to help you grow your career. Personal MBA, I really loved it because it includes about 1,000 books the guy read for doing his MBA and put them into one book. All the concepts from 1,000 business concepts, all in one book. So you learn quite a lot by reading these books if you want to grow your career. Same thing with building your startups. The most important things you want to learn is how to design value proposition, how to test your business ideas, and how to develop business models. Some great books I would suggest is The Mom Test. Basically, if you can tell to your mom your startup idea and your mom understands it, that's the good way you've pitched it, and that's a good startup idea. So these are like some great books as well if you want to get into startups and building your own startup. It allows you to learn the ideas and the concepts that would help you go forward. Read these books after you've done the Y Combinator startup school, and you've gone through the free content. So these books are like really, really great. How to do like $200 startups, Entrepreneur Revolution, what's happening right now. It's really, really great books. These are not everyday things about product design. 0 to 1 is how Peter Thiel built PayPal. Elon Musk's biography. You can do Steve Jobs' as well. Eric Rice, Lean Startup and Startup Way are really, really great reads if you're having a startup, and it's about not following vanity metrics when you get to the startup. This is Marketing and Good to Great is about how to build companies that other people basically put themselves behind to get products for. And This is Marketing. I would suggest that's a book as well that's useful for you if you want to build your personal brand as an expert in the field. Lastly, guys, if you have not already, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I hope this webinar has been useful for you. We do have a meetup group on Meetup called Beginners Machine Learning London. We're already about 900 people, and we do run mostly offline meetups, from workshops to in-person meets. Like last time we went to Barbican for an AI exhibition, which is quite fun. But because of COVID, we're now mostly doing our events online. So we have webinars now happening. We have a webinar next week on computer vision in foggy environments. So check the link. If you go on meetup.com and search Beginners Machine Learning London, you should be able to find it. But Soraya can also share the link for you on the live chat. And lastly, thank you very much. If you want the slide deck, I would suggest there is a link in the description that would give you invite link to our Slack group, and the slides and all the resources for this workshop and previous workshops are in the Slack that you can access later as well. So now I'm open to questions as well. So if you have any questions, I have the live chat open here for me. So we can do like 15 minutes to 30-minute questions, and then I'll be happy to answer them. So let's go through some of the questions from the beginning of the chat. So the question is how to incorporate foreign language skills in AI. Let me go back to my video. So incorporating foreign language skills in AI. So I think if you're talking about your background, because there's two things. If you're talking about natural language processing technology and using that technology on your specific language, then that's a separate topic. But if you're talking about your background, like as an interpreter, or your background in a specific field, having a different language, natural language processing is the way. They use NLP a lot. For example, Google use it quite a lot for translation in the translation applications. And if you have a background in that area, I don't think it's an area that's been fully exploited. And you can actually make an impact if you learn the technologies and if you focus your expertise and your learnings on learning NLP rather than anything else. So get the books on natural language processing, and if you're more interested in languages, get the book on that and learn those bits. Become an expert in that area before you start like going into other areas. So I would develop my self-curriculum more on the NLP area. And NLP is a really big field, so even if that doesn't work out, a lot of companies, like chatbot companies, like finance, NLP, I think, is one of the most promising technologies in terms of like having opportunities to work for. So you can get really good salaries as well working with NLP in different industries. Next question. So it says about the demand for AI practitioners, beginners, do you think COVID-19 and upcoming recession will have a big swing in demand? So I think with the COVID-19, there are now more people studying AI as well, and a lot of the jobs that are now in AI and data science they still do exist, and they continue to pop up more and more. I think with what happened now with the pandemic, a lot of people now want to be able to predict it in the future, so that doesn't happen, and be able to use it in healthcare to be able to reduce the number of people getting it, or preventing this disease from happening ever again, or even if it happens, accelerate the process for getting a vaccine. So I would say yes, with the COVID-19 and the pandemic, even though more people are now studying it, the demand will be even higher now for people to get into this field. And if you want to get started, I provided the resources and the ideas for you how to get there. I am an interpreter currently working on some sentiment analysis project of tweets in different languages and curious in if there's any field besides sentiment analysis to combine these skills. So sentiment analysis is only one part of NLP where you just basically realize, you basically try to write a program that would say if this statement is positive or negative. But basically, you can do a lot of all sorts of other things with NLP. You can do classification of text. You can do structured of the text. So if you just research various applications of NLP that the technology can be used for, it would allow you to become more creative on what other things you can do with the data that you have, especially if it's in a foreign language. I think libraries like Spacey, which is for advanced NLP, and NLTK, Natural Language Toolkit, they do have support for lots and lots of various languages in their corpus text information. And speech translation and text-to-speech, all those things, there are like various other applications you can play with when you're trying to learn AI. Next question. If there are opportunities for linguists in AI projects, so far I see many freelancer jobs to tag words and recording speech. So one of the things I want to mention is that one of the big jobs that are quite going around is tagging jobs, or I would say, how would I call it? Tagging jobs or labeling jobs. If you see any of those jobs, don't apply for them. They're not very, very useful for your learning, and they don't give you the experience you need. All it is you sit down behind a computer and you label the data so that someone else could come and build an AI model on top. So if you don't see jobs that are not related to NLP in particular with your field, I would suggest look for other not your usual job boards. So if you like looking for job boards, for example, on Indeed or LinkedIn or something, and you can't find it there, see Google search and see if you can find other job boards that are more specialist in the area that you're looking for. I would also not just to rely on job boards. I would talk to people. So reach to your do some posts on LinkedIn and reach out to your network and see if there are any people who want to use this technology in that field. And I think because of your background, you will have more access to kind of people that are more right to talk to compared to, for example, for me. So try to use your current network and background to find those jobs. It's more of a search compared to more of a it's more of a research and finding compared to just finding it stumbling upon on a job board. So there are only 2 positions for linguists on Facebook and Amazon Can, especially in language play an essential role in the projects. They can just work as a freelancers rating data. So I'm not sure, so you need to consult the job description. If they're just potentially for linguists, there's a high chance it is about working on the product and labeling, for example, but not specifically developing the product and developing data science part. So if it doesn't talk about anything technical in terms of AI, in terms of the job description, that is not the job for you, because if that is the part you want to get into, you want to apply for a job that the responsibilities are more about developing the product than labeling data. Unless it's some kind of consulting role where you have to consult the product manager of how to develop the product, and that's completely different. So you have to assess if that is something that you want. Next question. So Soraya has been helping as well in answering some of the questions, but if I come across some questions that I've not seen before, I will help to answer. I am working on moving to the UK, and I find that the job hunt for ML/DL engineer positions differs from what I'm used to. Can you mention some specifics of the UK market for AI jobs? So So the question is a bit broad. So I'm not sure what you mean by how it differs from what you're used to. From what I've seen, the UK market, when they search for data scientists and machine learning engineers, they just as if like, you know, when you go and like you want to um, you want to go and do some shopping and you list everything that you want. UK companies as well, when they want a talent and they're searching for a talent, they pretty much go on their job description and just list all sorts of technologies that they think they may need. So you end up with these job descriptions that is a massive long list of like all sorts of different technologies. And one thing you could do is see how much of those technologies you know, and even if you don't know some of them, still apply for the position if you think you're a good match for the role. As I said, be very picky on the jobs you apply to, but even if the job you love has some requirements that you think you may not have, still apply for the job because probably other people will not have those requirements as well. If they want for if they're looking for some unicorn talent that knows software engineering, they know DevOps, they know data science, they know machine learning, they know data engineering, they know everything. It's very hard to find that kind of person for like that the salary that they wanted, for example, to give away. So just just read the job descriptions, and if you don't necessarily 100% fully match, still consider the position and apply to it. And some of these companies, as said, if you want to get a UK visa, go search and see if the company is on the sponsored list and if they are willing to sponsor you to come and work in the UK. Most of the time they will be, because the data scientists, the good ones, are not easy to come by. Next question, do you provide online certificate for the participation? We can provide online certificate, yes, if that's something that you want. But it would be a more generic certificate because it would be very hard to produce 200 with the names on top. Coming from a cloud background, what would the best route to get into AI? So from a cloud background, you have a much easier time to get into AI. I would suggest focusing on the cloud. So for your background is cloud, I would put that as a strength and focus on the strength. So if you already have really good with the cloud, do some certifications on the AI and data part so that you get those areas sorted. Then what I would suggest you to do is I would suggest to do some normal courses on machine learning. Like Andrew Ng's course on machine learning is good. You can do Data Camp, you can do Udacity. Just do random courses that you enjoy doing, that you interest you. Just learn a bit about machine learning and AI and gradually do the same things I mentioned in this webinar, and that would help you gradually shift your career from cloud, just doing cloud, to doing more cloud data, cloud AI, and then just data or AI if you don't want to do anything with the cloud anymore. But cloud is the future, AI is the future, and combination of this both, if you have them, you have no worry about your career. You're in good position. In terms of like, if you want to see the books again, I would suggest join. There is a link for the Slack group in the description. Join the Slack group. There I posted the links in there that you can access the slides as well as the list of the courses I've compiled. So you can access that as well. Will I realize I'm fluent enough in Python to start the next step? That's a really good question. So here's one way that you can realize you're good with Python. So if you are writing programs and as you write them, you go back and you try to refactor. And when you refactor, you end up with like way less code. So for example, instead of using for loops, you use list comprehensions and dictionaries and things like that. And you're comfortable with classes, you're comfortable with object-oriented programming, and you see other people's code and other people's Python code, and you don't get intimidated. That's when you know you're not. That's when you know that you have passed that stage, that you're more comfortable with Python. There are some topics in Python that are intermediate, advanced. So advanced topics could be syntactic sugars. They could be generators and things like that. Intermediate topics could be list comprehensions. They could be object manipulation topics and things like that. If you can easily wrangle data structures from one to another, like converting lists to dictionaries and wrangling around dictionaries and combining dictionaries and listing things together, or like navigating the system file path with Python, these kind of things, then you know that you're getting good at Python. And that is like one of the main things that you want when you get to data science. And when you go to the data science libraries like Pandas and NumPy, most of them are pretty much similar. And like you don't have much, you will know what's happening under the hood with these libraries when you're working with them, when you're good with Python. And that could really ease your learning journey. Next question. If you had to pick just one online course that you consider as being a must for becoming a data scientist, not from scratch, having experience with both ML and data management, what would you pick? You consider becoming a data scientist, not from scratch. So if it's from scratch, I would suggest Udacity's Intro to Python course. Just learn Python from there. If it's not from scratch and you have some experience before and you just want to do one must course to become a data scientist, if you want to learn machine learning, I would suggest Andrew Ng's machine learning course. If you want to do deep learning, and I would suggest deep learning AI course, or I would suggest Udacity's deep learning course. So Udacity's deep learning course is one of the deep learning nano degree is one of their most advanced. It's one of their most flagship products. Deep learning AI course is a bit cheaper in terms of the price, and it covers about 80 hours. So if you just do that, you learn a lot about deep learning. You learn about RNNs, CNNs, everything. You learn all of them. If you already have some backgrounds in data science, machine learning. For data science itself, like data, working with data and getting good with Python, Pandas, Matplotlib, all of those data visualization libraries, just go do the data camp data science track. So datacamp.com have a data science track. It's about 80 hours. If you do that, then you become really good at data science part. So machine learning, deep learning, they are field of data science. You can do data science, like my current job, I don't do much AI for now. I do mostly data science and some AI, but it can be all sorts of different things. Do you recommend specific certifications related to NLP? If it's a certification so if it's some kind of professional institution recognized in the industry, so for example, in the engineering industry, Engineering Council, Institution of Mechanical Engineers, Institution of Civil Engineers, these are very well known and very well respected institutions. And if you get certifications from them, these certifications are very well recognized. If there is such an institution within the natural language processing field, yes, then getting the certifications from them is worthwhile. Otherwise, if these institutions are not known and there is no professional body that you can get certified from, then no. If you're doing the NLP, you get more bang for your buck if you build something or you create some content to do blog posts or teach. You get more bang for your buck if you want to showcase your expertise in that area. How do you know how much you're worth doing salary negotiations? So if you've done the briefcase technique, which basically means you do your research and you figure out you do your research and you figure out how much value you can bring to a company, you will know the feeling. If you're very valuable, you will know the feeling that, oh my God, I know this and this and that, and from my research, I know that they don't have any of that. And if they had it, they could make so much more money. And all I need is a share of that money. Then you know that you are very well worth compared to what they're offering, and that could base your negotiations. And when it comes to negotiations, you don't have just salary to negotiate on. Salary is just one level. You can negotiate on other things. You can negotiate on flexible working arrangements. You can negotiate on pension. You can negotiate on benefits. You can negotiate on training that they provide. So they could pay for your data camp or Coursera subscription for a year. You can negotiate this stuff, or you can negotiate like their equity. So you don't have to just negotiate on salary. You can negotiate on various levels. You just have to remember to negotiate and ask. And you don't get it if you don't ask. There have been countless times in my career that I've seen people 10 years in their career and they're still on the salary as same as a graduate. Just the thing is, back in the day, their salary for graduates was half that amount, and because they have not asked and their salary just grew little by little, when their salary reached like 30K and the graduate salaries are starting at 30K, their salaries are the same, even though that guy has like 10 years experience. So always ask. If you think you're worth more, you always ask. If you think you have a lot of experience and expertise and you have a lot, and you still think that, and you're always struggling with money because you're not getting paid enough, it's probably you're being underpaid. So the best way is to negotiate your salary or change jobs or change careers. Will this be webinar available? Yeah, so we will post this webinar. I think we may need to do some editing on it. At the beginning, there were some issues, but we will post this webinar on the channel, and we will also post more tutorials and courses. I'm working on a 13 video data wrangling and data visualization course with rail data. That would be useful. I think that would be interesting. Next question. What are the skills that data science positions require other than the ML programming, like database management, etc.? So do you remember the, say if I go back to my slide and I show you, if you go back, I showed you like a mind map. So this mind map I put together using, by just looking at the data from various LinkedIn positions. So a data science role may ask you for any of these roles, for any of the skill sets. However, they cannot expect you to know all of them, depending on what the focus of the role is. So mostly data scientists should just know more about MLDL algorithms, some data science consulting skills, and deep learning frameworks. It's more of a role of the software engineer to do DevOps, APIs, and software engineering. And it's more the role of the data engineer to do data engineering, big data, and stuff. The other part is sometimes more of a role of the data analyst to do analysis and data visualization. So data scientist is kind of like in the middle role, where depending on the role requirements, you may need to learn different skills. If you had to pick just one online course, I'll just put back the slides so you can see. If you had to pick just one online course that you consider as being a must for becoming data scientist, okay, I already read that. So could you share some information about the PM role? So PM role as in project management or product manager? So project manager is different as in they manage the project. There's more beyond the product management role. You mostly manage finances, you control the project program and so on. Product manager, on the other hand, so AI product manager, they manage the product, they make decisions, they make the roadmap for like how the product should develop, and they accept or reject whether the model used in the AI product is good enough to be used, and whether the rest of the product comes together nicely and integrates nicely. So that's the role of the product manager. So imagine like Airbnb app. Whoever is responsible for the development of the app is the product manager of that app. So he's the ultimate person responsible, and he makes the shots of like what goes in the app and how the app should look like, and he works with the team to do that. There is another role called Scrum Master. That person is more about making sure that the things get done, things happen, and that creates the work breakdown structure and so on. It's just a separate role from product manager. You may come across other roles such as AI engineer when you're doing cloud certifications. Those are more about not developing the AI models themselves, but using pre-built AI models that are hosted on the cloud. So such as AI services by Azure or Amazon Web Services. So if usually both of these cloud computing companies, they provide you with resources you can instantiate. They're like a vision service or like a speech service where you send your data to these services and then they give you back the processed information. What are the material available to start the AI career? So the material available to start the AI career is mostly, I would suggest you have books and you have online courses. You can also get teachers if you can. I would suggest getting someone to teach you. It's way faster. It's the most fastest way. Otherwise, I would suggest for online for courses, do the most recent online AI course. There is Udemy, there is Udacity, there is Coursera, there's all other online resources. The reason I say with courses compared to books is that courses provide most recent up-to-date information on the libraries and technologies being used. With data science, AI, and pretty much tech, ebooks really go out. They become really obsolete really fast. So they unless you get the latest editions all the time. So that's why I said, like with books, only read them when you get to reach a stage where you know everything and you just want to become an expert in a field. How to switch career from a normal software developer to AI developer. So same thing I said with the cloud developer to normal AI developer. I would suggest you to learn Python or R really well if that's not a tech stack you know. So if you've been mainly working with as a full stack engineer, working with JavaScript, the web development technologies, and if you want to change to data science, look at this slide and pick Python or R to learn them really well. If you know Python and R well, then focus on rest of this skills tree, starting with ML/DL concepts and algorithms, how to build ML models, how to build deep learning models, and go from there. The good thing is, as a software engineer, you already have the light blue bits. You already know how to do software engineering. You may know how to do version control. You may already know DevOps and cloud computing. So you're already way forward, as well as a web dev. Only thing you will need to do is basically get good at wrangling data. Learn pandas, learn NumPy, learn data visualization libraries like Matplotlib, Plotly, Seaborn, and then practice with them every day, build projects with them, or create courses and online content and blog posts with them until you build your personal brand around it. Slides will be downloadable and they're on Slack. So next question, if you had a PhD in data integration and some experience in MLDS, how would you go back into industry? Given that you are not starting from scratch, but you've been disconnected from the industry. So if you already have some experience in the background, you can skip some of the steps and you can start applying for jobs on job boards using the same process I mentioned. Be very picky. Just apply to the ones you think you're a perfect fit or you kind of underqualified for. And two, building your network means reaching out to people on LinkedIn. So I think in your instance, it would be better for you and faster for you to just reach out to people and say, listen, I've done my PhD now and I've been away from industry, but I have these skill sets. And you can look at my portfolio here, my profile here, my CV here. I'm looking for a job now. Do you know anyone or do you know yourself who would be hiring? And if you reach out to the right number of people, the opportunity will come to you at some point. If you want to be more passive about it, if you want to also have another strategy, is to build your personal brand around it. So start creating content, start building stuff, and posting about them on social media and being active on it every day. So that's what you could do. So you're a mechanical engineer. What do you recommend to people shifting from mechanical engineering to AI to make this transition more enjoyable and encouraging? I would suggest, if you want to make it more encouraging, sit down and think about why do you want to switch, and if you want to make this switch, what is it about AI and data science that you really enjoy? Is it programming bit? If it's programming, that makes your life much easier because most of the things you will learn is related to coding. All of these libraries and technologies that you will learn, you will have to code and to learn them, play around with them. For me, the most enjoyable part is learning the technologies. So learning Python and then coming up with new things and then seeing how these technologies could be used to solve a problem. Like getting some data from various places, joining them together and then wrangling them and then coming up with this nice visualization that provides some really, really profound insight. That was really fascinating for me. Or like developing a model that would classify flowers and realizing how it's being done under the hood, that was really fascinating for me as well. So the most important thing is that you need to enjoy the journey. If you're not enjoying the journey, so let's say you want to learn piano and you're not enjoying it, and there is a high chance you will stop doing it at some point and you will not reach your goal. So goal is not the most important thing. The direction is the most important thing, and the fact that you just enjoy walking in that direction. It doesn't matter if you reach the end. It matters more that you can continue walking in that direction no matter what for a long period of time until you get there. And you won't know you would get there. It's like you're walking in a dark room with a light in your hand, with a lamp in your hand, and you can only see a few steps ahead of you. So just focus on the few steps ahead and keep walking in the right direction until you get there. Most job boards are useless. I agree with you. So the best way to do is to this thing I brand and reaching out to the hiring managers, reaching out to the senior people in the industry and asking them if they know jobs. So 70% of jobs go out are not posted on the job boards because they get hired internally or they get hired through networks. Companies will only go to job boards when they can't find anyone in their network. And often they get lots of applications that they just ignore anyway because there's too many people applying. Are there algorithms controlling job boards? There are algorithms controlling job boards, yes. There are AI algorithms reading through their text and so on. And same thing with applications. There are probably some ML algorithms reading through your CV and picking out keywords and see how much you match with the application, with the job board application. After you finish, will you keep a complete YouTube video online? Yes, I will. What if your background is not in STEM, but you have worked in the field of several years? Does the non-STEM background influence decisions of hiring managers? So the thing with AI is that if you spend that 1 or 2 year building up your skill set in programming and in data science, and you learn the concepts, you learn the math, your background is actually your strength, is not your weakness. So if your background is not in STEM, your background is something else, like in humanities. If you can bridge the gap between your background and the tech, you become that one unique person who is an expert in your background and an expert in AI. And you can leverage that, just like how I did. So not many people in rail or in mechanical engineering know AI or data science. And I made that transition. And now I'm setting myself as an expert in the field in that specific area. And that provides me with opportunities that otherwise will not be open to you. I would not have my current job if my background wasn't there. If I had like another background, I would not be here. Yes, my background is in mechanical engineering, but I got the job in mechanical engineering, but that doesn't mean you will not have the job in your background if it's like non-STEM. So don't get disheartened. Your background is actually your strength. Yeah, you can come into background from any background, even in computer science. All you need to do is just learn the technologies, doing the courses, and then after a year or two of doing courses, then start making stuff and building your personal brand. Python is better in data analysis. I would suggest for Python or R, depends on what you want to do. So R has very stronger data analysis wrangling libraries. Sometimes visualization is more for statisticians. So if you want to do really some hardcore academic analysis on some data, then R would be good. But the problem with R is sometimes it's a bit more cryptic. Python is easier to learn compared to R. So for beginners, I suggest Python because it pretty much now most days, all the libraries and all the technologies have been ported over from R as well to Python. Like whatever you can do in R, you can now do in Python. So if you have data tables in R, pandas now can do most of the same things in Python. And Python is more English compared to R. It just makes your life much easier learning language as a beginner. I prefer Python, but there are lots of jobs going on for R as well. If you want to go work in academia more, then I suggest R or R&D. If you want to work in the industry more, then I suggest Python. What Kaggle competitions do you recommend for beginners, NLP, computer vision? Pick the ones that interest you. There is no specific Kaggle competition that is good. All of them are different. If you want to do more computer vision, focus on the computer vision ones. And focus on the ones that you think you may win. You know some stuff, or you have some ideas that you can play with. The thing with Kaggle competition is that don't do it because you want to win. Do it because you want to learn something, and do it because practice your skills, and it gets you excited playing around with the new data. So for example, when the COVID data sets, I want to practice my NLP skills, I'm just going to wrangle the data. So I didn't go to win it. I just basically went and opened the kernel and just play around with the data, see if I can wrangle it and get somewhere with it. So if you can win some of those competitions, even better, something to put on your CV. I won hackathons. I attended hackathons and won hackathons. You can do that with Kaggle now if it's because if you don't want to do in hackathons, which is more stressful. Thank you for your advice. Taking your advice to reach out to people who are more experienced. How can you convince them to take a look at your work? Our team has a data wrangling product, but it's hard to have people to give feedback. Okay, so the advice I gave was more to do with so reaching out to senior people was more to do with asking them for help in terms of helping you grow your career and getting the skills you want, and like helping you as a mentor. If you want to reach to people who are actually gonna give you feedback as a user of the product, so you have built some product and you want people to give feedback to you as a user, then you're reaching out to the wrong people. That senior people you're reaching out to, they're probably not your user and they're not interested. So I would focus on who would be interested in using your product and then asking them for feedback. So if you think a senior person would be interested in using your product, then reach out to them. Otherwise, if they're just some kind of senior person that have some expertise in the industry, when you reach out to them, expect that they won't get back to you because they may not be interested in using your product. Focus on talking to the current users you have, get the feedback from them, make your product better, and getting the product market fit. When you get product market fit, people users start coming to you, and you will have an abundance of resources for getting feedback from people. But just people that give feedback, they will probably not care. So focus on the users and see the golden opportunity is finding a user that is also feedback. Someone reached out to me for a product. I helped them with it. I spent an hour with. So maybe perhaps if you're reaching out to senior people and you want some of their time, if they may provide you with that opportunity and be kind enough to do it for you, I would try to give something back to them in return. That give and take book I suggest that could be useful. They have some ideas in it to help you with that. Maybe just I don't know, like offer to pay for the coffee, or like offer to just sit down and chat over dinner or something like that. I mean, over pandemic, offer something else. Come up with an idea what you can offer, and that may persuade them to help you out. I think I'm more interested in the theory/academic side versus the applying. What kind of roles are there when you can use more maths? Does it require getting a master or PhD? So if you want to do more academic side and you want to actually develop the algorithms more, there are actually roles out there that would help you do that. Organizations such as DeepMind, which is the Google AI part. There is DeepMind. There are some research organizations in AI. If you go on the 80,000hours.org, which is the website by the branch. Sorry, it's a non-profit website that help you find how to use your 80,000 hours of your career. They have a job board there, which most of the job board is focused on research and development in AI, and those roles maths background, more of a maths background, more of a theoretical background that you may need to develop algorithms. So most of the industry, they use algorithms to make models, and it's more about using. If you want to actually go into more theoretical algorithms yourself and like expand the field, which I think that's what you want to do by focusing on the theory and academia and doing research, then you need to join academia, universities, organizations, research organizations that focus on the AI and developing AI further, especially in safety, ethics, and algorithms, and how to improve algorithms. So focus on applying for those kind of jobs rather than just like some that would help you. Any other last question, guys? I think that is most of it. If I missed any question, just repost your question and I will answer it. You mentioned writing blog posts and papers. What kind of meaningful paper working in a research position or having a PhD? So by paper, I don't necessarily mean like a proper research paper. By paper, I mean, for example, if you're not working in research, working in industry, if you happen to use the technology, the AI technologies in your current work, and it's something new and not done before. So, for example, for me, I used data science libraries to develop an operational model for one of our clients at Atkins. It was made previously only to some extent in MATLAB, but no one had done it previously with Python with the data science libraries to that extent. I could take that and and write a paper around that project on that specific problem, describe the problem, and then provide the solution of what I did with Python and what technologies I used. And that's what you could do into a paper. So paper, and that is more formal, but paper could also be informal. It could be you just sitting down writing a book, or it could be you sitting down writing a tutorial in a PDF. In a 20-page PDF, you write a tutorial how to wrangle data, how to get data, for example, from a data feed, like weather feed, and wrangling it and visualizing it and doing some stuff and make it into a nice paper tutorial. So I would suggest doing that as well. So it doesn't need to be like a research paper. It's more about you producing some kind of something that teaches someone else and giving back to the community. So the more you give back to the community, the more currency you get. The more you produce, the more benefits you get from it at the end. The more opportunities will come to you, and the more you will build your personal brand. And it doesn't need to be research papers. Obviously, if you can, that's good. If you can do research papers and you can do patents, then yeah, definitely it would be useful. But other than that, you don't have to. If you're already working as a data analyst and enjoy NLP, how can you break through the NLP and data science? So I would focus on doing more courses and reading more books on NLP, and get the what's it called, like various bits of the field covered in terms of expertise. Spend maybe 6 months just doing NLP, nothing else. Just learn all the NLP algorithms, differences between them, and keep posting about it every new social media. Find interesting content and articles and post about it. Even like write short articles and short blog posts about NLP. The main focus is you just need to be blabbering to people about NLP for the next 6 months, for the next few months, just so that everyone knows you're the NLP guy. You need people to categorize you as the NLP guy. And when you get categorized as the NLP guy, then the hiring managers that want to hire someone as a data scientist in NLP, when they hear who they need to look for, they're like, the NLP guy, I need to go to you. And you have a much easier time categorizing yourself as the expert in NLP, and then you can switch careers from analyst to NLP data scientist that way. So do a lot of NLP courses, then create content around it, then you would get there. And search, and then keep applying for jobs in meanwhile, not from just applying for jobs and contacting people who may have NLP jobs. You could fast track the process if you do that in meanwhile and you get the job, then good. But this is more like a lifelong process, this whole process of creating content and building a brand. It doesn't stop. Ali, as a freelancer, how do you pursue AI skills knowledge typically per hour, per day, at per project rates? So I haven't done freelancing before, but I think basically when it comes to freelancing, the principles are the same as any other type of freelancing. The way to do it is there is a pricing video by Y Combinator on how to price your product. You're providing a service, and the way you price it is that you look at the value your client is getting, and you look at the cost you have. So what is the minimum cost you need to get the revenue for, so that you just break even? What is that cost? Like the cost of your office, the cost of working from home, the cost of like your time, and your living expenses, of how much you need to pay the bills, put that all together in a spreadsheet and figure out what your minimum, what your mid floor is, and figure out how much value your client is getting in terms of saving money and getting money and revenues. And that will be your ceiling. And all you need to do is you need to find the balance between them. So you need to bring up the floor as much as you can to reach near the ceiling, and that's how you can maximize your profits. You could do is you could start from the middle, so between the lower boundary, that is the minimum cost that you're having, and the higher boundary, which is the maximum amount of value your client is getting, and you pick a price at the mid range. And if your client is happy paying for it, and you're still having a lot of clients, and you even have a lot of just delivering for all of these clients, then you can double your price. And every time you double your price, you halve the number of clients you have, but you keep the revenue the same. And this way, every time you raise the price and you gradually raise the number of clients, and again you double the price, you increase number of clients, and then the number of clients again increase again, you double the price, to gradually you can increase your price and become more like a premium consultant this way, premium freelancer. For AI skills, you can charge higher price than like compared to creative skills. In regards to the price itself, I don't know like exactly how much you can charge per day and per hour. That's something you need to work out yourself. Basically, you have two options. You can do a fixed price rate per project. You say, okay, I'll deliver this project for you for £2,000. It will take me 16 hours, and if it takes me more, I'm happy to pay for my use my own time to deliver the rest. So you put the risk on yourself. But if you want to put the risk on the client, you say, okay, you give him an estimate. You say this is going to take 100 hours of data science work, and then for every hour I work, you have to pay me every hourly rate, but you charge them a cheaper rate compared to a fixed price. And then basically you have to keep telling them and contacting them and telling them basically what's happening with the project, and keep communicating that you're either you're on track or off track towards this 100-hour limit. That's how you can work with it. But watch the video on the Y Combinator page on how to do pricing for your product. That would help you with knowing exactly how much to do. And the rest of it comes down to your domain knowledge of your clients, and how much money they're getting from your work. Any other questions, guys? I think that's it all, guys. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this session. So this was the first time we were doing it. I think at the beginning we had some problems with the live stream. So I'm sorry if I couldn't speak properly. It's just trying to sort so many things at the same time and getting used to this software. But it's all going well. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. Just one last question came in. I'll answer that, and then we can call it a day. The video will be available on YouTube, so if you want to rewatch it again, you can do so as well, and you can go back in time. At the beginning of the MLDL application, you suggest concentrating on developing a single project or working on different projects at the same time. So you have two options. If you do multiple projects, multiple projects take away your focus, and you may end up producing some different small bits, different small projects, and it depends on your preference. If you have different small projects, not be very impressive, and you may not be able to show them all at the same time to future prospective employers and clients. You may have to pick and choose, and you may not have enough. They may not be very impressive enough, although you have a lot of them. However, small projects expose you to various fields and various technically fast compared to just if you work on one big project. So in the beginning, focus on small projects, build your expertise, and go from there. And later on, if you want to build a proper portfolio, I would focus on big projects. Pick a single project, work on it for a couple of months, make it into a proper big product. That is very impressive for anyone to see. They just need to see that, and they know you know their skills. They don't need to see anything else. So that's the benefit of having a big project that is very impressive, that you've used various skill sets on to your portfolio, and they see that, they're like, wow, this thing is amazing. I don't know how they built it. It takes so much time. We want this guy. This guy like knows everything. So that's the benefit of having a big project, especially if it's an impactful project. You solve some specific problem. That could be the basis of a study. You getting featured somewhere, like it would really help you in terms of your personal branding and getting a job somewhere. I will basically reshare the link to all of you for the resources. The link to the slide deck is in the description. If you join Slack, you would be able to access the slide deck here as well as our previous workshops. With that said, thank you very much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this session. And we will try to organize more sessions for you in the future. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for future courses, which we're going to upload very soon. I'm trying to see if I can also get any other webinars that we get in the future, post them on the channel. If you for beginners machine learning, feel free to contact me or any of the team, and we will be happy to start organizing